Oh my gosh. Chat, oh. I kept my word. I said it. I kept my word, chat. I kept my word.
What is your word?
That I wouldn't go overboard with my newfound powers. So,
Jesus,
there's an earthquake.
Move that whole desk for crying out loud.
Sorry. Welcome in, everybody. Mo,
He's
T-Schmid,
destroying stuff over
Rattlecan, Vector, Okran. Welcome in, everybody.
Colonel, we're doing great. How about you?
Excellent.
We guys were 3 minutes late. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
What do you expect from us?
Mo.
What in the world do you expect from us, Mo?
Welcome in, everybody. For all of you who are just tuning in, this is Jason.
Hi.
We call him J Money sometimes.
My name is, of course, J Money. That's my legal name, actually. Jason is what I go by so people feel more comfortable having discussions with me, because if you have to have a discussion, because if we go by my legal name, you have to use it every time you speak to me. There's no, you know, like you and hey man. It has to be hey J Money.
J Money.
What would you like to do tonight, J Money?
J Dollar Bills. J
Dollar bills, y'all.
J put it in the bank. J craze? Question mark. My time is valuable and I find value in the content. Oh, thank you, Mo. I'll take that as a compliment.
Mo, that means a lot, actually.
That does. That's good. Never mind. We take it back.
Our time is valuable, and we enjoy spending it with you guys because you make it more valuable. So there you go.
This just went from tomfoolery to kumbaya.
That works both ways. Can you zoom back out?
Yeah. Oh, I can do whatever you want.
Can you?
You want me to fix the zoom?
No, I don't want zoom fixed.
You want to redo? You want to reposition?
That should be center. Right there. Right?
Oh, maybe I need to adjust.
It's a little off left.
Oh, let me just adjust the camera real quick. That's easy.
Because when you punch in, I'm usually off screen to the left, I noticed.
Just a touch, yeah.
Right? And it's not really noticeable here. It feels in frame, but as soon as you punch in, it like chops. So if we can adjust me to get, see.
Let me adjust it then to this 200%.
Yeah. Because I feel like I'm kind of... Hold chat.
After a while.
Technical difficulty. It's not really a difficulty. I want to make things better for you guys.
It's just a little scoosh.
It's just a scoosh, a skosh, a scoot, a smidge. Hold on to your butts, chat. If you get nauseous during car rides, probably not the time for you. Right there.
Right there?
Right there. Feels good.
Hold.
Phantasmal, Christopher.
Perfect. Yeah, after a while, like every time I'll take something out or like I'm recording something.
Wholesome energy on stream today. It's wholesome? Oh, because you walked in because when we were having like a lovey-dovey session. Because Mo said he loved us and we said we love Mo.
Hey, we love all of you.
Every now and then it gets a little kumbaya drum circle in here.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Not gonna lie. We are not afraid as grown-ass hobbyists to embrace our inner nerd.
That's gotta be
with you guys.
That's gotta be a sticker. Or something that goes on a sweater. Grown-ass hobbyists.
We are grown-ass hobbyists.
That's great.
We are grown-ass nerds
Vector
here.
finally got myself a Go Bag Evo.
Nice.
Where a bunch of guys were rented a difficult hobby space nearby where we can play and airbrush, etc. late in the evening. So
nice.
That's great.
Hey, that's awesome, Vector. Like you guys got like a club? Like a clubhouse?
Sounds like it.
I would love to do that. I mean, it's kind of our office, but I would love to have like a clubhouse where people from around the area could come and hobby.
I think it would be great.
You know, we've always talked about doing it here, but we run out of space as soon as we think about it, so it's always difficult. We don't have a very good public space anymore.
Plus, we've had like
Route. Just want to say I'm really enjoying the new format and the videos groping. We have groping videos, and then he comes back and says dropping. But I'm gonna go with groping because I feel like our videos grope your inner creative inspirations.
What?
There you go. I was really stretched out on that one, but I think I landed it in the end. It was touch and go there for a second, but I think the judges should at least give me an 8 on that one. Q Lanu says, I too am a grown-ass hobbyist. Papa Chicken says, I really do my best to not fanboy over any certain brand unless you consider the Miata a brand. The Miata as in the car, the Mazda. But dang it, every time I try another one of your products, I find myself frustrated I didn't switch sooner. Your synthetic brushes are holding a point so gosh darn well. They're amazing, right?
Yeah.
And the brush group hasn't disappointed either. Yeah, man. Thank you for noticing. It's funny when you really do sit here and can 100% say with 100% honesty that we only make what we use.
Yeah.
And I think we prove to you on a daily basis that the way we paint is not subpar. We paint at the highest level, and we need products that work for us.
That's true.
How about an old-ass hobbyist? You're welcome to. I definitely fit that one more than a grown-ass hobbyist. I feel like you're grown earlier, and then you become an old-ass hobbyist who is also grown. Not all grown hobbyists are old hobbyists, but all old hobbyists are grown hobbyists. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll go with that. A clubhouse kind of thing, 10 minutes from your house. Most of us are with us since. Oh, man, I'm jealous. I mean, technically, the office is 10 minutes from my house.
That's true.
It's not 10 minutes from everybody else, though. If on a weekend like Chris, if you guys were going to come down and hobby, it's a long-ass haul for them.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a space, there's, the distance doesn't, necessarily matter if it's a good hang, right?
Yeah, exactly, right? For the social aspect,
Yeah.
I'll travel miles. Jedi Juice says, what colors are you using? So right now, this is all done with a base of drab brown. Golden dark brown as a base, right? And then drab brown, and then drab brown mixed with, I think, dark ivory.
Yeah.
I believe. Hopefully Chris has been keeping tabs because I've been doing a horrible job of it.
Go back. I believe it's dark ivory and drab brown. There's a couple.
And then I did a dry brush real quick of ivory.
Right.
Right, just to get some of the edges back. We've kind of done that whole spiel on all of these blackout minis.
Yep.
The dry brush gives us the detailing back because there's a lot of very obscure, small, tiny, delicate detail on them. And then on Friday, we were doing the blue-black as a base for anything that is gun metal, right? The NVGs, the guns, things like that. And then today, I'm going to start in doing the gunmetal stuff on this big boy.
Right.
Big boy. So again, blue black.
Yeah, if you guys all have questions, definitely be sure to tag me so that I can see them. Last week we started painting up a unit. If you're all checking out our YouTube today, we just posted some airbrushing techniques on how to airbrush a vehicle. So check that out. That's on our YouTube, this is the link right here.
That's the video that starts us off on the trek
of the vehicles
on this guy.
Yep. So we basically did in that last video, we just did the all around airbrushing. And then the next one will be some weathering, which is we did quite a bit of weathering on that guy. So that'll be coming soon.
To a theater near you. Oh wait, wouldn't that be rad? Do you think you could we could rent one of the local?
You can do that at you can do a private screening at Harkins, I believe. It's like they do it for business events too. Like if somebody wanted to, if a business wanted to rent out a movie theater, right, and play video games, I know you can do that. But yes. Essentially, we could.
As big as Monument Hobbies is growing, we still don't have that kind of stupid money.
I don't think it's too expensive, actually, believe it or not. They keep little theaters separated for that stuff. It's not too expensive, I don't believe. Only a couple mil, I'm kidding. I have no idea. I'll have to look it up.
Oh, if it's only a couple million, then yeah, definitely. We can make that happen.
Money's growing on trees over here. Well, I'll have to look that up. Love the airbrush video. Nice. Super excited that you found it useful. Going to be excited to break in my new airbrush. Yes, it's a great video. I've watched, obviously I'm editing them, but I've watched it. I watched it twice this weekend just to watch it.
I watched it today. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
I don't say anything overly stupid.
You don't say anything overly stupid?
I'm always careful when I go back and watch my videos because I'm like, when do I make the stupid remark? Mm-hmm. But Chris is a great editor.
Yeah. So
I don't really have to worry about that.
Well, and if you think about it, it's already all live, It's already out there in the world, regardless.
Oh, wait. You mean we can't? There's no takesy-backsies?
You can do takesy-backsies. They're very difficult in the world of takesy-backsies. So no.
This just now made me feel very self-conscious. You mean all the stupid stuff I say during this show is like out there on the internet?
It goes live to our live tab right after this.
The whole thing? No editing? Unfiltered?
Unfiltered. Hello, everybody. Welcome in.
We're screwed.
We're done.
We're screwed.
Hey, you know what? Chat is what makes this show run. That's right. Kamikaze, are you guys going back to Adepticon? We are.
100%. It is our most fun, biggest show of the year.
Belcor probably gonna get an airbrush soon. These streams are going to be tremendous help. On that topic, which one is better for beginners? Chat Awada, Eclipse, H&S, etc. Or Ultra? Oh, so you're just asking about what kind of airbrush to get.
I think that the Iwata Eclipse is definitely one you can't go wrong with. We are no longer going to be supporting the Grex brush that we do. So in lieu of that, the Grex, though, are still phenomenal brushes. But I think it really comes down to, like I've always said, what do you think you can afford or want to afford? Harder and Steenbeck makes an amazing brush. There's a tremendous amount of them out there. And it's just going to be up to you to kind of figure out what you think your pocketbook wants to afford to get you going. Do you know, some people like to jump into their hobby, both feet in. I know I'm going to love airbrushing. I've seen what it can do. I've been watching it for years. I finally got some money saved up. I'm going whole hog. Fine. Yeah. If that's you, if that fits your MO, then go whole hog. Spend the money, buy the best of everything, yada, yada, yada. If, however, you're like, I think airbrushing could be cool, then start with something more akin to like the Masters airbrushes, right? The Sparmax. The Sparmax stuff, they're the cheap versions that aren't tooled as well, right? But they're all made by similar factories. They all exist in the same ecosystem just about. So you don't have to worry too much in terms of, sacrificing quality for getting a learner's permit type brush, and then come back at it and say, okay, well, once I'm, 100% locked in and I know that this is something I love, then you can use those pieces. You can retire that cheaper airbrush to just doing like priming duty. Yeah. So on and so forth. So it's never a bad investment either way. The cheaper brushes can be okay to learn with, but they can also provide you with issues just because of their make and manufacture not being as good. But in today's day and age, even the cheap ones work pretty well. I've had people buy the Harbor Freight airbrush setup and really enjoy it and not have any problems. So, and that's just like the Masters and all that other stuff. So it comes down to what do you want to afford? How into it do you think you're going to be? Go from there.
Avian. Okay, I need Jason's inner orc here. I picked up the Uruk Totem Tower to add a more traditional head to my Snake Bite Stampa. That's a great idea. Now I want to copy you immediately. What would be an appropriate method of fuel to make it go? I was going to put squid gerbil wheels on the back, but not quite feeling it. All right, I'm trying to think. Are you talking about...
I don't know what you're asking me.
Yeah, are you... Now, this... I am very excited to see pictures of this because that new totem head would be dope on a Stampa. So I'm already jealous.
This is a Lord of the Rings thing?
No, I think it's literally like the big Stampa. The 40K Stampa.
No, but the Uruk totem head, they said.
There's a new Age of Sigmar kit that came out. It's terrain, right? And it's a big totem. It's like a big platform.
Oh, I thought
totem.
The word Uruk was thrown away around, so that's Lord of the Rings.
No, sorry. It's Orc, my bad.
Oh, Orc.
I think that's what you're talking about, Avian. You will have to...
So you said Orc, not Uruk.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So, but what's the question? You're asking what
you'll have
fuel
to
it with?
Yeah, you'll have to clarify that for us, Avian. Now, if it was just being a funny, then gerbil squig wheels would be hilarious. Big and Fluffy, does Jason have an Instagram, or is he separate from Monument Hobbies? I love his tutorials that he's been putting on YouTube and want to follow him back. He is Monument Hobbies. We are Monument Hobbies. All of Jason's bits and content goes straight to Monument Hobbies.
I am owner and product coordinator developer for Monument Hobbies. Mm-hmm. And thank you for enjoying the stuff we put out. I am one of the few, we are one of the few companies on the planet where you get to talk to the owner, and that's probably of any industry, where you get to deal direct with the people that make the decisions and create the products and use the products on a daily basis. It's why, like at the beginning of the show, we say we don't make anything we don't use. Being one of the owners, that holds some weight, we hope. Yeah, I it's funny because all of our social media accounts were my personal accounts at one time.
Right. Well, yeah, funny. You just made obviously. So all of Jason's stuff is on our socials, Monument Hobbies, and all of that. So definitely keep following.
I've had some requests to do a personal Instagram that is just more focused on the paintings, the stuff that I do, because we don't always capture the individual projects here because we don't want to make it about the model.
Yeah.
At Monument Hobbies. The problem is that I just don't, outside of the stream, I don't paint as much.
Well, I mean, you paint a lot. It's on stream. We're doing it live.
So it's just been something I haven't done. Plus, I have to be honest, like there's a anxiety of starting another group of social media channels that I have to pay attention to posting stuff on. That's a lot.
Yeah.
It's already too much.
Lumberjack Tim, what happened with Grex, and should I stock up on needles?
No, I mean, the Grex components are all the same. So if you wanted to buy needles, you can just get the ones from Grex. If we have them in stock, you want to purchase from us, yeah, buy them, because once they're gone, they'll probably be gone. We'll probably stock like we're going to make a new cleaning kit and stuff like that for airbrush. We're not supporting the world of airbrushing, but the deal with Grex will no longer be going on. So we're not continuing that.
Q, are you guys making punch lists for things you want to teach and feature with the new format, or are you just winging it? No, Jason and I essentially come up with some concepts. We talk about what Jason is interested in painting, and then I'll workshop with him several different videos from that project, right? Because you could, talk about glazing, 5 or 10 times, but glazing doesn't mean one thing. It could be glazing, but on 5 different kinds of models, and you see it 5 different times, right? So we concept it before we start. Like this one, for example, is a unit from start to finish. The last one was a vehicle. Then we had bust. When those busts are different because we get a lot of content from those busts because there's multiple techniques you can do on them, and you can do them on these models too, but we definitely have a game plan.
That's being a lot more generous than I would have said. I would have just answered yes. We are winging it. But yeah, Chris is right. We typically are looking at, like, number one, rule of cool, what I want to paint as an artist, because that's ultimately what keeps it energized for me and makes the content good. But also he brings me ideas, like the vehicle one was his idea, like, hey, it's been a long time since we painted a vehicle. What should we do? And that sparked me instantly into saying, yeah, we should. And I think I have exactly the thing in mind. And so we went, and Chris and I dug through the room filled with models to come up with something that we could paint.
We have a lot of cool models, and
we do have a lot of cool models. That doesn't make it any easier.
Papa Chicken, since your return from the holiday break this year, the stream has a much different vibe. Was that intentional? Yes, I would.
As long as you mean that in a good sense, then yes.
Yeah, we've. I mean, I think people have definitely been enjoying it. But
the goal was to get back to some of our fundamental roots. Mm-hmm. We had, in the midst of all this, and speaking with Jordan and the team, and Jordan wanting to focus on, bringing some value in other arenas. It's funny because when we brought Jordan on board, he didn't want to be a studio painter. He was very adamant. He wanted to learn more things about the business, get more involved in having a direct impact on business and things like that. And so that was always the goal. And so as he's been growing and handling more in the realm of like customer service and things like that, it kind of made sense to move him as we're starting a larger sales focus this year, that he move along there. And so then that took us to a conversation we were having about like, okay, well, we were talking about what do we want to do with the stream. I had tasked the group with saying, hey, we over the last 9 years have generated more content than any other human or group of humans on the internet, and dare I say in the world, with regards to painting tutorials. But we don't get to reap the benefit, and you guys don't get to reap the benefit of that because they're not cataloged in a way. It's all on a live stream that isn't edited or cataloged at all. And so it makes all of that content not useless, but pretty close, right? Unless you're really, really anxious to go dig back through all that, it's hard to find and to decipher what we've done on the stream. And so I said to Chris, hey, I really want to find a way to make all of this time we spend with you guys be valuable to you after spending the time here. Like, we get asked innumerable times, hey, remember that thing you did? How can I find that video? And some of them predate us even cataloging the videos, right? And then over the last 2 years, you've been able to find the video, but it's still a 2-3 hour long deal where in the middle of it is a bunch of fart jokes and answering stuff from chat. And it's not edited to a point where you can really get what you want to out of it. And so that was our focus for the new stream. So we hope you guys are loving it. The Sanguineous Wings video into a tutorial. Probably, I don't know, that video might exist.
So, here's the technical side to that. So, Twitch and YouTube, they keep your stuff for a certain amount. You want to go back and download something. You can, because they can't keep it in a full, Twitch gets rid of it. YouTube, you can. It definitely, they store it in a lower quality.
That's one of the big problems, is everything that's on YouTube, if we pull it down and edit it.
It's 720 if you do like an old download, right? So it's not impossible. It's just also, the little tougher. You have to go back, you have to find those, and then Jason puts those over so many years. I can't edit out faces or go too technical. But I have all of our sources in the studio right now as separate, and so that no matter what, I have an entire safe.
Yeah, we had to invest quite a bit in building a system that would give Chris the infrastructure he needs to do what we do now. It was not like this before.
Yeah.
Right. So not just the addition of more technology, but the way that technology is available to him so that it gives him access in the way we record. When he hits the record button, it records every single camera. You'll notice if you go back and watch the stream. Can you punch in?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
When you go back and watch the stream versus the tutorial, you'll notice in some cases you're like, oh, in the tutorial, it shows me working on the palette, where on the stream, I never was working on the palette. We never brought the palette cam up. Yeah. And that's because he's able to capture all of that data in the background, even though it's not how we're switching here live. So the stream and the content are different in the way we can grab it. And we do some voiceover work on the
just because
edits, just to make it easy.
We also want to be able to answer your guys' questions, but those are sometimes not relevant, not in a bad way, to the project, right? Because we want to keep it, we don't want to limit anybody to asking a question just about our project. So I keep it all separate, and then the stream, just like what Jason said, is totally separate. And I know I realized that was muted for some of my speech there. So, but essentially, you guys get the idea.
Chat, we're hiring. I've reached out to that guy Jamie from the Joe Rogan podcast.
Jesse.
But maybe that's why he didn't take the job. So I got his name wrong.
No,
for some reason I think he gets paid.
Is it Jesse? And maybe I think it is Jesse. Yeah, I'm fired. So that's okay. I'll see myself to the door.
But yeah, we're super stoked with it. We sit around and talk about it a lot here at the office, that for the first time the stream really is vibing in a way that it includes both during and post show. Whereas we've always had a really great vibe during the show. But after the show, it's like, good gosh, where is all that time?
Yeah, it's also about bringing, just like we do with our paints, also just bringing a better, more precise product to you guys. Not saying that before it wasn't that. We're now focused on not just community, but also making sure we get you the education and tools you need so that you can do this, right? And not everybody has the time to go back and watch the streams, right? Which you could totally watch the streams just as a tip and double the speed. I've done that before, right? But
Never think to do like the 1.5
playback. Oh, I do it all the time.
And you'll come in and do it, and I'll be like, oh, that's a choice, isn't it?
Oh, it's great. It is not just for us, but like I do that on a lot of stuff, especially because that's the thing. I don't necessarily want to cut out. That's kind of the grand question is like, how much do you actually cut out of a stream, right? Because then otherwise you just have another stream you're editing, right? So you kind of just have to decide. But again, here we have the blessing of we don't ever really fully cut it because it's already up. You guys get to see every part of the video if you would like the option. Melbourne, thank you so much. I appreciate that. It's more slick and pro level. Great job. Thank you so much. Yes, we're trying to do our best for the best, chat.
That's all this guy. I have nothing to do with it.
Talent on set. That's all right.
I just do the dance monkey dance part.
I'm just holding the mirror up, chat. T. Schmid, I wish YouTube gave me the option to default to 2. Oh, yes. I don't know if you can actually set that in your settings.
What's that?
To default 2x speed. No, I don't think you can.
Taylor, you want to watch me in like half speed. You can't get enough of me, so I need you to just be honest with us here. Well, this is not a group where we lie to one another.
You know,
we're all friends. You don't have to lie to us.
I am spoiled as an editor because I'm typically in the
He gets to watch me like 10 times.
Well, not just that, but it's like I get to decide what to cut, not what to add most of the time. So, because that's a huge problem for content creators. You'll hear them be like, oh, what do I say about this thing? And we don't really have that problem because Jason...
Are you saying I talk a lot?
That is my very polite way of saying you talk a lot and it's 100% necessary and I use all of it. So,
are you don't saying change. I'm a mouthy bastard?
No,
that's what it feels like you're telling people.
You get into the... Woody Wobbles, rude. First time, chat. This is a model from the game Blackout. So yeah,
this is called a heavy duster. They call their AI combat mechs heavy dusters. This is a 28 millimeter near future sci-fi game that is very well put together in terms of like military standard. We've got really, really good details on these guys, but they have, that near future automation. They've got AI combat robots, which are their heavy breaching infantry are so AI cool. Combat robots. And then of course these big heavy dusters that are like when you need the job done right and you can't fit an Abrams tank in your pocket, this thing will walk on the battlefield with you.
Ghost Hunter's asking, did you prefer painting? What's more fun to paint, Blackout or Infinity?
I'm having more fun with this than I did with Infinity, and I think it is largely because of the styling of it matches my like for, that kind of near future military styling. I think Infinity goes too far off on, exposing too much skin and unrealistic expectations of stuff, physique and all of that. I think that Blackout really hits me with the more realism aspect to it.
Yeah.
So rule of cool, I think that. I think that, obviously where Infinity got me was like the oh gosh, what was it called? The Combined Army with the Morats, the guerrilla dudes, stuff like that. I think they had really, really good alien factions. I loved the, it's funny because they contacted us here a while back and wanted to send us some stuff to paint on stream. And I was like, oh, yeah, sure. You know what I'd really like to do is put together what is the Combined Army bug people? What are they called? Does anybody remember? It's the...
In Infinity?
In Infinity, the Combined Army has these guys that are like bugs. I keep wanting to say Zentradi. That's not it. That's
Infinity
Macross. Oh my gosh, I can't remember what they're called. They have now new models for them, and those are some of my favorite models in the game. And so I was like, yeah, send us a task force for those guys. And they were like, oh, we were thinking we'd send you like 1 or 2 models, and these are the ones we'd like to send you. And they were ones I just didn't even feel at all. I was like, nah. Let me put the brakes on right there. I was like, we're not your standard content creator. I'm not looking to just paint your models. I'm thinking in a collaborative sense, and I want to paint stuff I like. So I kind of felt like a little bit of a butthole, right? Because, I mean, they're reaching out to me. We love those guys and what they've done. But I was like, nah, it's got to be really cool, and I don't want to paint anything you're showing me right now.
Did you get to paint more War Crow other than the bear?
No. We have the other models from the base set. It didn't gather a lot of interest around here from the rules and stuff, so it just kind of floundered in that regard.
Yeah.
Which I think it's meeting to very lukewarm success out in the world at large as well. So I don't know that for certain. But
Game Delay. Question from Game Delay. I'm struggling painting some Tau weapons in white and getting clean lines on the recesses. The guns are small enough and lines fine enough that are wondering about tips you might have, not for a monthly challenge to be clear.
I mean, the stuff I'm painting here is very similar to that in that it has panels on guns and stuff that are very small. So if you were going to paint them bright, you would have to just go in and make sure that you've got that detailed brushwork. If you're trying to do it fast, that becomes a problem because maintaining a clean white with dark panel lines is always going to be a bummer when you're trying to do it fast because a wash isn't going to do what you want it to do unless you go back and clean it up and you're already now spending more time. So I think really, you know, what I'm doing right here, taking the time to make sure that the brush really nails the panels you want it to nail and leaving the detail around that panel the way you want it. You just have to have that patience, I think, is the key. And that's not always the best thing to say. I know it's not the magic bullet answer, but that's really what it is, especially when dealing with white, because you're going to need to build up a clean, assuming that you want a more clean Tau feeling deal and not completely beat up, which I would paint Tau heavily weathered just so I could excuse myself from that whole deal. I would paint it like we painted this tank, right?
Actually,
I can imagine like Tau battle suits in this kind of weathering, and it would be a fantastic looking army. If, however, you're trying to do it nice and fresh, then you've got to build up a nice white through grays or blues or whatever your color choice is, and that's just going to be layering.
You've said that quite a bit where it's like you don't really ever paint white if you're trying to paint white.
No, but white is a color that doesn't... I don't know that this is true to say this, but I feel like white either wants to be clean or dirty.
Yeah.
Not in an in-between state. You can't really do a textured white and get away with it because it just feels like grays. So in order to really pull it off as white, you're either going with a beat-up weathered white, which you can, you still do the same way and then just add the weathering to it. But that can help you with like the contrast on the panel lines and things like that. Or you're doing a white that is very clean and you got to spend your time with it.
Yeah. Hopefully that answers your question, Game Delay.
White and black both are difficult because you have to spend your time with them to get them to read correctly. If you paint black too sloppy and fast, it looks like gray. Won't get you where you were going. And then same with white, you want to give it some nuance, which means you got to spend the time, have the patience. And so white Tau become a little bit of a time investment. No more difficult to actually lay the paint down, just more time.
Swifty Bear, I'm really struggling with highlights on long, smooth surfaces like a trench coat. What is your advice when doing large, flatter surfaces?
Large, flat surfaces like
Highlights.
Steel panels and stuff like what I'm doing here is really just picking the lighting direction and then doing my blend in that direction, right? Because that's the key. You're just trying to always make sure that your highlight goes in the direction of your light source. And then you're saying you're struggling with the smoothness of the blend? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, or I'm struggling with highlights on long, smooth surfaces like a trench coat. What is your advice of doing large, flatter surfaces?
So one of the big things, let's see if we can get something sort of workable here. Do you have anything over there?
Like a texture trainer?
Chris, like a texture trainer?
Like with a cloak?
Well, that one that I just did the axe on.
Yeah, I took the picture, so you're good.
Oh, you did take a picture.
I did. So I'm just saying you can manipulate that if you need to.
I might could paint the back of the axe on this one as a way. It's not.
What about the
none
cloak?
of these have like super long flat surfaces.
I wish we had something with a cloak.
Is the cloak on her something that would be indicative, like the cape here?
That's what Swifty Bear's asking. Like a trench coat. So that's kind of like
this is kind of a cape, and it has long, kind of flowing panels here, right? So if I show you on something like this, would that work? The highlight would be on the outer edge here. Let me do something with that real quick, and we'll see what we can make work. Let's do it in
smooth highlights on long, smooth surfaces. Essentially, is the question.
Let's do it on what colors?
What about a green cloak?
Grays,
green,
purples. You have a color you care about? Swifter.
You're out there.
You have a color? Blue, purple, gray. It's all going to be the same technique, but if I can do a color that you're interested in doing, maybe it would help you also with the color stuff. Ghost Hunter says, Game Delay, have you tried bleach to get your whites white again? Pink? No.
Oh, I see.
Jade, what's happening?
You're all just trying to get him to paint a pink cloak, right? That's what's happening here. Safety Bear, if you're there, definitely let us know.
Yeah, Game Delay. I mean, Game Delay starting from black and then painting gray. Okay, so what I mean by taking your time on the towel is you start with blacks and all your panel lines are instantly black. Then when you go and you base coat on it, you're painting all of those guns. If you're trying to do them in white, you're painting gray, leaving the panel lines black. Then you're highlighting on the top of that gray with whatever color finally to your white, your bright neutral gray, and then white transparent or titanium white or whatever you're using. And you're always keeping paint out of the recesses. That way the recesses are as clean and crisp of a black line as you're ever going to get. That way you're not adding material to go into the middle of the lines. You don't have to oil wash. You don't have to do any of that nonsense. You're just building up and not painting the lines. The lines stay the primer black. That's the way to do that.
Safety Bear says red.
Red, okay. Let's start with some burnt red, pyro red, and then we'll go into orange red. Okay, so we'll do this. Actually, you know what? We'll get rid of orange red. Let's get pink. Okay, pink. Ta-da. So we'll keep it in the scope of real reds. So when, I lay down a base of burnt red to get a nice, rich, kind of dark red color going on, I'm generally doing that as a fairly thin coat at first, like I do with all my painting. Right? So I've got more water on my brush, so more of my black primer shows through. That's a big key component to my paint style, is that I'll start with more water on my brush for my first coat. It makes it look a little messier because you can see the black through it, and sometimes it's not consistent, but that's not a worry, right? That's all part of the plan. Right, so first time, and you'll hear me say that a billion times as you watch me paint over the years, is that typically as I'm starting from a new color, the first coat of that new color goes on fairly thin so that it lets more of the previous color, whether that color is the primer like what you see right now, or subsequent colors that you'll see after I put on this coat of red and we move to another red. But you go thinner with the first version of it so that more of the base coat shows through, no matter what that color is. And then you tune it by adding another layer or two to hide the base coat the way you want it to be hidden. Right? So you might have more or less of it showing as you add more layers. So this first layer, I'm not as worried about, brush stroke direction or anything like that. I'm just trying to get a good full coverage on, and you'll see how there's some areas where the black is still kind of like showing through. Okay. I love how you can just jump projects so easy, super duper. I mean, it's all painting, right? It's just changing colors and material, right? Like what we're focused on making it look like. So after I have like one coat down, can you pop a super zoom in on that? Yep. Right, you see how I've got more of the black showing through? Once one coat is down, then I come back and I don't leave a lot of water on the brush, and I start then moving this color to where my highlight would go. Like the top here would be brighter, right? This fold, it curves under and then comes back out. So this part where it starts coming back out would be brighter. And now realize that we're talking about brighter in regards to the darkest color that I'm going to put on here, but it's still able to do multiple duty for me, right? So I might brighten this up, right? And then grab a little bit more without adding any more water, right? And then come down here and do this whole fold that comes out from underneath like this, right? So now I'm brightening up one surface, leaving darker in the shadowed areas underneath like that. We're just going fast and messy here. And then maybe right here, brighten this up a little bit. Maybe this little triangle down here. Okay. So now I have that same color has now done two things for me. It started to highlight itself. So by doing the first layer thin and then going over that first layer with another layer of the same color, I have the burnt red with the black showing through on the underneath of these folds, right, where it's darker, and then the burnt red by itself on the brighter side. Okay. Then when we switch over to the bold pyro red, this would just be an easy red workup. You could obviously switch the colors as you want. We do the same thing. And this works for tank panels, cloth, anything you're doing, you're going to paint very similarly, right? So again, first layer, more water on my brush, take off a bunch of my material so I'm not real sloppy. My base coat can be sloppier, but as I move to my highlight colors, I want to take more color off. And then we have this fold that comes down like this. And so I just want to start from my dark shadows and start pulling the bold pyro red out to where we think it would be brightest once you've got your light defined. So that would be kind of out along this edge, like so. Right. And then we want to do that. And I might tear some of the paint because we're working really fast over an area that isn't quite dry yet. But on this one, I would do the same thing. Come out of the shadows and pull the bold pyro red out to the outer edge of the fold here. Brush direction is important, like we always say, right? Making sure that the color lands where you want most of it to be, right? And same thing down here. Brush stroke starts in the shadows, moves towards the highlighted edge, and then even down here on that part, okay? Then we go back with the same brush. We've done a thin layer. Now we go back with a brush with less moisture on it. And then we start divide that area in half. So before, I might have taken my brush stroke all the way up into the shadow and pulled it down. Now I'm only going to go halfway and pull it down to that edge. And I might, depending on if I want texture, I might take the tip of the brush and kind of do that and give it some texture up into the shadows like that. And same thing down here. Split it to where I'm only pulling that brush stroke about half the distance of that fold now. And then same thing down here. And here. Always making sure I'm leaving enough of the previous color visible, which is why I say about half of the distance of what I painted before. Right, come back because I'm tearing some of the paint because we're moving so fast here. But
so is the base coat not supposed to entirely cover the primer as B-Town?
A lot of times it covers the primer. It lets some of the primer show through. And that's why I start from black as a base coat, because I want that primer black to darken that first layer color to help me in my shadows, to pull that color out of the shadows. So all of my brush strokes move from shadow to light. Oh, I probably need some of the pyro red up here too, huh? Then I'm going to continue trying to force this where I tore the paint to not tear anymore as the paint dries. Right. So now you can start getting some depth to it because I have that where the burnt red and the black overlap, but more of the black shows through. So I get that real desaturated burnt red to the burnt red where I did the second coat, right? To the pyro red where I'm starting to layer it up. So same thing under this fold, burnt red and black showing through, burnt red by itself, pyro red over the burnt red, right? Same thing up here, right? So that gives me my layering and makes every color more powerful. Then if I want to take the pink, I wouldn't take the pink and put it right over the top of that. We're going to mix it with the bold pyro red. It's a little too bright unless you're wet mixing or wet blending. So we'll take the pink with a little bit of the bold pyro red and create a brighter red like that, kind of a hot pinkish color, right? Because we don't want a super shine on this fabric. And again, same thing. But now before, where we did the burnt red from like here all the way down, then we did the pyro red, and there's, you see that line where the pyro red started and did about 50-50. Now we take this other highlight that's your next stage, and you start about 50% of that. So your brush strokes get shorter and shorter as you get brighter and brighter. And the same thing here, about 50% of my previous bold pyro red brush stroke comes in and gets this highlight. And then down here, 50% starts being very small. And then this little triangle, 50% is nearly non-existent. It's just a dot of paint because you're running out of room. Eventually 50% is 50% of nothing, right? And then again, depending on how you're texturing it, you can come back and give it more streakiness in here. If you're trying to do like a worn cloth, you know, like this, you can go back and push a little bit further up. Right. And then depending on how, I guess I got up here too, 50% of this is almost just a edge highlight, but I'm still going to follow that same texture right along that edge. Okay. And then last but not least, I might take the pink by itself, which is going to be super bright, almost like a white, right? And you can imagine how now, just along the edge, like I can take this, and this can just be like little, really rough thread areas, right? Nice. Where this can just be like random little things. And you mentioned like cloak and things like that. So if you're doing cloth, I like to add some texture to it, but you can imagine doing this smoothly too would work just as well, right? And then down here, you might have just basically teeny little, almost stippling, and then like that, right? And so now you have, if you can pop that out, right now you have a highlighted texture to it that shows all of those colors, but it really is the same thing that we talk about when we talk the stages of doing any blending. Start with one area that has the whole area covered, right? So our whole area is covered with our base coat, and I start from darker colors. That's just what I do, right? Then the next stage takes whatever color you're using next. In this case, it was bold pyro red, and I do bold pyro red about that much over the surface, right? Leaving this much of my previous color showing here. And then we mix the pink and the pyro red, in our case here. Got this salmony color, and we paint that about 50%, right? And now you start running out of room. So then when you come in with your pink, you can imagine like you really only have that much space if you're trying to show what's underneath it. Make sense? That is painting, and that's layering in a nutshell, is that each one of these has to be done to where your first coat is, you know, thinner so that it shows the base coat through it, right? And it allows it to give it a little bit of a visual blend like that. Then your next coat of that color splits the difference and makes it more dialed into just the red. That amplifies that blend. Then when we come in with the mixed color, do the same thing. Remember, we start about here, and you start with it a little bit thinner so it blends in. You see more of the pyro red underneath it in this case, but you get that highlight color. Then we go a little bit more intense by taking no thinning, right? No water on the brush. And you do like that. Okay. Then you take the pink, and if you had this much space, we didn't really have this much space, but if you did, you take the pink and you paint in this area back here first with a, well, I took all the paint off the brush. Right? Start back in here. Gosh, I'm not wiping it off on my hand. I'm trying to use my palette and it's causing me problems. Right? Back in this little area here. And then eventually you go to where you've got full pink or whatever your highlight color is, and that winds up along the edge. Kind of having a wet blend because we're moving so fast.
Swifty Bear, makes sense. So in general, you'd say highlights toward the down edge.
It depends. That was just the shape of this.
Yeah.
This one was the down edge because the way the ripples were is it forces shadow from the overlap above it, right? You can imagine if this were done, if it were sculpted this way, they might be on the top edge, right? If this were a cape that were blown out this way, then the top edge would be what you're looking at. You're always looking at where your light would hit this, right? Light wouldn't, if this model were standing like this in the sunlight, light wouldn't hit up underneath this fold. It would start hitting as it comes out of that fold, leading you to brighter colors as you work out towards this way, right? So you're always thinking about where does your light hit? The same way the light hits the top edge of the axe and then these top surfaces, right? As opposed to from beneath. So you in your head have to set, like on this case, we set on this axe, we wanted the light to be over here at like, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, right? So my brightest shine is facing 2 o'clock on all of these parts.
Nice.
Make sense?
Makes sense.
But the real key takeaway is this, is that you're painting each color and then covering 50% of it with the next color or 75. It depends on what you're trying to paint, how much darkness. If you cover more of your darkness, the whole thing will be brighter. If you leave more of your darkness showing, the more grim it'll be. So you can adjust like from your dark base coat to this first color and leave more of your dark base coat showing. And then as you add highlights, they'll scrunch into smaller and smaller spaces. That's what we do with black, right? When we do black, black is all about painting that base coat, and then you're not covering 50% of it with anything. You're covering about 25% of it and leaving the darkness all the way here, and then your highlights just exist in this end, which is what you see happen here.
Nice. Hopefully that answers your question, Swifty Bear. Big and Fluffy with the sub and Flapjack Nickel Sack for 7 months.
7 months? Uh-oh.
Thank you so much for those subs.
Chris
everybody.
has a noisemaker, by the way, if you weren't here on Friday.
I use it for special things, like subs.
I love it.
So, chat, that was layering in a nutshell. Hopefully you enjoyed that. I know, wow, late to the party, Black Wolf. It's okay. Better late than never. Welcome in, everybody. If you're just now tuning in, we are back painting some details on our unit. We started this unit last week. Yeah, we're back and just diving right in. Just a beautiful little layering tutorial there for you. Hope you enjoyed that. And now for some listening to some smooth jazz.
Insert horn here.
Is there a horn on this sound? No, there's not. I don't need that kind of power. We finished up painting our vehicle last week. We just are starting to post some of that content for you, all bottled up in some tutorials. So that's coming out. We just released one today about airbrushing.
Yeah, the panel modulation airbrushing thing is out in the wild.
It came out great.
Fly, be free.
Swifty Bear, absolutely. You're very welcome. If I missed your questions, you guys, because I was really just capturing a video there, definitely say your question again. Make sure you tag me so I see them. Jake K, question about washes. Are they supposed to be really thick?
They can be. Ours tend to be a little bit thicker so that you can get whatever you need. If you start with a thicker wash, then you can dilute it with water and get to whatever consistency you want. You cannot thicken a diluted wash, though. So our particular washes start a little bit thicker, but not horribly. Like you can still put them directly on the model.
Yeah.
It just is going to have what we call more higher tint strength at that point, meaning that it's going to have a bigger impact in color right out of the bottle, and then you dilute it as necessary.
Yeah.
So like I will typically do 50-50 water and wash with our washes.
Zaz is asking, do you usually glaze over your layers?
Depends on what I'm doing. Sometimes I will. Depends on what the finished product wants to be. For really smooth blends, yes. Glazing over your layer work, it will help smooth out your blends. Airbrushing as a glaze will help with that. If you're confident with your airbrush work, you can use airbrushing to get you there. That's what a lot of the high-end painters will do, is once they're done with all of their initial blocking in of colors, they'll use the airbrush to smooth out that blockiness. So that's a thing you can do. Mm-hmm. Glazing off the brush is good too. We talk about Mashik Flame On a lot of times and how he does his metallics. He'll block them out. They'll be really rough. Not rough. They're still nice looking, but they're very stark in contrast layer to layer. And then he'll glaze in between the layers to get that smoothness back in. That's a great way to paint. It takes a lot of patience, depending on the scale you're doing it at, but works fantastically. For a lot of what you see me do on stream, especially depending on like the time that I'm trying to take to do it, I won't glaze a lot of my layer work. Mainly because I like texture in my work. Yeah. I think the world is filled with texture. There's very few things that come off as being smooth when they're in use. And because most of what I'm painting is war-torn futures or fantasy age type stuff, I don't feel like smooth and clean fits the bill very often. But there are times where having a very smooth blend works better in the storytelling for a particular thing. Sometimes the smoothness in and amongst all of the texture is really what sells a piece. So,
Papa Chicken, have you ever gone out of your way to paint a different style than yours, i.e. painting like Craft Roll Studios or something? What, if anything, did you gain from that practice?
It's a great question. I don't typically look at how like another artist's style is and look to mimic it. I do, however, look at color usage, right? So if I see an artist use a particular set of colors in a way that I think is unique and interesting, I will adapt that into my style with that color scheme. We did that with the Pascal Blanche color scheme that we did on the
Pascal Blanche.
Is it here?
What are you looking for?
All of the oh yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Right? So we have Cosmo.
Oh yes. Mm-hmm.
The Lost. Cosmo Proterial, the Lost, who is the cosmonaut. Cosmo the cosmonaut. And I did him reminiscent of Pascal Blanche. And Pascal Blanche uses these very vibrant, yellows and jades and greens, and then puts a splash of red in it as a very hot source for focus. So we did the gorilla skull of his dead head with the punch of red. And that was literally an homage to Pascal Blanche. That was me, utilizing a color style that I like a lot on a theme that I felt fit with what he was doing, and used it as a way to teach source lighting so that we could get some really cool kind of otherworldly OSL going on this guy. So that would be something. This would not be something you would see Pascal Blanche paint like, so I didn't mimic his style, but I did steal his color palette that he works so much in a similar way. Not that he owns that color palette, but the way he utilizes his palette interests me, so I will take that and let that influence a piece of work. I don't really ever look at other artists and say, ooh, I could go paint like that person paints. And I don't know. I mean, there's probably a little bit of ego involved there if we were to get honest at our therapist about it. But I don't like mimicking people. I don't feel like people like being mimicked by their peers. But I could be wrong with that. I think it's more of just I like painting the way I paint. And a lot of times the thing that I will see is how can I adapt what I think is cool into my comfort zone. But that being said, I would always say that taking a style that you recognize and using it as a tool to say, can I do that? Right? is a great way to push yourself to new avenues and learning experiences. So if you were to say something like Craft World, right? They use amazing works of like underpainted colors and a very sketchy style to turn out some amazing works of art. They're both trained artists, right? And so they have a very painterly vision. Same with Kaha, right? Katarina Gorska. I'm going to screw her name up, but Kaha is amazing. Amazing person, amazing painter, very schooled in the use of color in a more two-dimensional artistic sense, and translates that to miniature fantastically. So if you were going to take that, you would not be a horrible person to say, hey, I want to see if I can adopt something like that, because you will pick up some really good tools by doing so, for sure.
Mr. Blue, this is a great question. For models used in games, should you take into account non-ideal lighting during the game when painting, e.g. light from above instead of a camera with a ring light or something?
How do you mean taking account bad light? Are you talking about at your painting station, or where you're going to be playing with them later?
Where are you going to be playing?
I never think in terms... Okay, so this is a great question. I think in terms of painting my miniatures so that they look good in any light, and that's meant to mean that I'm creating contrast, brightness, and darkness in a way that the room light can't ruin, unless you just turn the light off, right? Like if there's just such a dim light, then you're not going to be able to see anything, because if you were to paint your models bright enough to exist in a dim light, then when you turn the lights up, they look like clown suits. So there's a low end spectrum where if you're taking it into a dimly lit romantic restaurant on this Valentine's Day, you've painted this exquisite model for your partner and you're going to give it to them at dinner, and it's romantic candle lit dinner, and you hand it across, they're not going to know what's going on until you take them to a better light source, right? And you have to understand that you're not going to make up for bad light in that sense. But if what you're trying to do is I'm in fluorescence in a convention hall because I'm playing a 40K tournament, you can paint your models with a type of contrast that will survive any lighting, right? So I always pull this guy out. He gets to be my poster child for the 3-foot test, right? So he's got great contrast, great color, great vibrancy, so that, you're going to know Blood Angels, awesome, but also the way all of the color is brought up to focus on the head and the shoulders is going to be that kind of, it's that angelic, old painterly style that made almost a halo of light around the head of certain subjects when it was more religious painting or the king or whatever. So I love that halo of light around the head and shoulders. It really pulls attention there. And the rest of it can just kind of fall into shadow because it gives depth to everything you're doing. That model will survive being in horrible light, great light, doesn't matter. So your goal as a painter, in my opinion, is to create contrast on the model that survives poor lighting. And you have to be taking that into account, because our lighting here in the studio is fantastic, right? We've got great expensive lights, studio lights all over the place. I can still take this into my office and get it, right? So I always suggest making sure you have good lighting, right? And by good lighting, I mean the kind of lighting that eliminates shadow in as much of a way as possible. Our brightest light is here, so we get more shadow coming from this direction. But in a sense, when I'm holding it, this model doesn't cast much shadow on itself. And if it is, it's in the briefest areas, but anywhere it's facing me and my paintbrush, there is no shadow. So that's the goal, of being able to saturate the model with light. But you want to make sure the color temperature is at, what are we painting at? 65?
This is 5,600.
5,600 Kelvin.
It's kind of like a standard daylight
mix,
right?
Kind of a yellowish white.
Yeah. So. And even though we have some in the background, that background color does not affect our subject.
Can you scroll back up?
Yeah.
What am I seeing up here? It's Valentine's Day, going to be a pink and purple and white plaid day. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Yeah, take it. Like one of the questions up here is like, one of the best tips you ever heard was to take your models into new lighting. Drop your minis on terrain on your table now as you're painting your first kill teams. Yeah, if you ever are trying to go for that and it's worrying you, take like a model like what we're painting. Like if I painted this guy as my test model, right? And for this army, say, and I got him all painted up, then yeah, I might take him out. I like taking him out in the sun.
Yeah.
Right? Because the sun is some of the most intrusive lighting you're ever going to find. And so if you take your model out in the sunlight and it doesn't overly blow out all of your colors and make it muddy looking, then you probably win. Because every man-made light is going to be some subset of that and is not going to have as much intensity or all of the ambient reflection that outside has, right? Go stand on concrete on a sunny day and hold your model up and look at it at about 2 or 3 feet at arm's length from you and rotate it around and see if you can still see all the details you spent time on. Because if you can, you win. It'll hold up in any light after that. If it starts to look to you from that viewpoint that it's all muddy and the colors all run together, then you need more contrast. More darkness, more brightness.
What's the Blood Angels workup? Beckett's asking.
Beckett, this is Payne's Gray as a base. So it's our really dark blue, black color called Payne's Gray is the base. Then dark plum and then bold pyro red. So dark plum coming out of the Payne's Gray gives us kind of a bluish red, purpley color almost that you can kind of see in the midtones. And then pyro red over the top. And then I mix warm flesh in with a pyro red to get this kind of pinkish color. And then bright pale pink as the highlight. That little sting of almost white is the pale pink. You can see all of those colors on the shoulder there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it works great. It's super simple because I wanted to do whole armies. And so being able to toss that much color on them very quickly worked well. And it is on stuff as much as big. It works well on the big stuff just as well. Same workup. Right. So you paint something like this super fast and get a really nice look to it.
Derpstick, what would be better to darken down dark silver? A black wash or transparent black to make it even darker?
You want more of like a gunmetal silver, like something really dark, like almost like wrought iron style color? Is that what we're asking for?
Mm-hmm.
Because I like adding the transparent black to the silver. Take transparent black, mix it with dark silver, will be a lot better for you than putting it over the top. Right? You could do the black wash and that'll darken it up. That'll also give you more shading in the shaded areas too. So you got to think in terms of, is the wash look what you're looking for? Because mixing transparent black with dark silver gives you a fantastic color. And then just paint with that. Just mix some up in a cup and run with that. Take your models out for a walk? Yes, exactly. A model stroller. Cynical Morale says, got any, I'm assuming you mean OSL?
Yeah.
To show off as opposed to just overhead style lighting. The Cosmo model that I just showed you is an OSL, right? So this one, if you can jump out to the 3-foot test, that's meant to show, the fact that there's he's in space and there's some star or sun. Again, I'm using the Pascal Blanche style referenced light source, but that's very much a directed light source that I've done on him. Right. And we do that quite often. It just depends on the model. Jordan just recently did Denav, one of our Age of Anger models, and it's got the OSL from the green Witchfire in his hand back onto his face. So yeah, we have all sorts of examples that we do with that.
I also have, we'll have a OSL quick workup. Jordan went on last week, if you're all interested. Or was that 2 weeks ago now? It might be 2 weeks ago now.
Got the little close glow of the little plasma glow from his walking stick on the Guardian.
Yeah, Jordan did a workup too last week. Cool.
I don't do a lot of really exaggerated, it's been all the rage for the past year or two or more in the bust world of doing very exaggerated moonlight, firelight kind of stuff. It gets old real quick to me. I've done that a lot. So I typically try to do more nuanced light sources that feel more indicative of placing the model into a different story time. I can only see so many models that are telling stories by the campfire before I get bored with it.
Swifty Bear, yeah, I've posted a little while ago. I posted some of my Nurgle.
Pop in on this one close. Yeah. I love this one. This was a super fun project. This is called the Guardian, and it's a Black Sun model that they just re-released because they got so many people wanting it. They re-released it. And I like to believe we sent a lot of that traffic their way because people would see the gardening that we did. But yeah, I love the backdrop on this one. This was just a fun study in showing people how you can use stippling and really smudge brushing with the dry brushes to get something like a narrative cloud base going. That was all done with just smudge wet blending on the background, very painterly style to get all that done. But I really like the fact that we took the 3-dimensional wires from the telephone pole that I did. So I have these wires that go to nowhere. And then they come down, and then I found the right angle to get them to when you're looking at the model where you're supposed to at that angle. They just kind of go, I got the angles perfectly to where it just goes off into the painted one on the backdrop. And then the crows are not models, right? The crows are painted to hide where my 3-dimensional wires go into the back panel. Because I drilled them in at an angle and got them there and then painted the crows sitting on the wires to make sure that it didn't just transition in this weird state. It's a neat fudge of the eye that makes it look pretty cool. And then the dead city in the background and the grass and all that. So it's just really a bunch of diorama tricks to kind of trick the eye that, the grass is physical into non-physical in the backdrop. The backdrop is also ramped, so it helps with that illusion of go, but fun stuff to do. Ghost Hunter says the Guardian was the first model you ever saw me paint. It was a lot of fun. There was a lot of that stuff that we've been talking about recently with the vehicle. All the chipping, all of the weathering and stuff that we did on him is a great reference because it was all done the same way we did the vehicle. I did all of this with sponge weathering. So we hit him with the sponge and got all the weathering on there, and then went in and created, connected the dots between some of what they did to create like cracks in the paint. And, just this was a storytelling exercise, right? It was really fun because we kind of got irreverent with it because this model comes with a little child, and the little child is in this like egg on his back that's like the child's apartment. It's like a tent or a camping camper that hangs on his back. And the child is standing either in the camper pointing off in the distance like a boy and his dog, right? So you can imagine, it's called the Guardian because you can imagine the robot protecting the child. Instead, we did the Guardian by himself after he got pissed at the child and made a cape out of his skin.
Oh my God.
So this is human flesh skin. So that was the flesh cape that we did. And that was the storytelling. You would have had to know the story behind the model to get that part, but while we were doing it, I was like, I want to paint it like human flesh because it's supposed to be the Guardian. And instead, he's the flayer of men. So there you go. But it was like, he's had parts and pieces from various, like here's a formed piece from a red primered piece of metal because he lost his shoulder. His head's different color because, maybe he had a bolt-on head from another model that was like a military model or something. So I just had a lot of fun. We discussed a lot of color theory and things like that, putting colors together and using them in a way that made sense to tell a story. No, the ramp backdrop is a 3D printed backdrop. I don't remember where I got it. There's somebody on My Mini Factory, I think, that does, I would say just do model plinth or model bases or something like that. And he sells a couple of files that you can scale how you like for resin printing.
Yeah, there's got to be a bunch of those out there on My Mini Factory.
100% drow leather. Must have been a giant kid. Well, it's a lot of kids.
Thank you.
It's a lot. I think somewhere in the story, he was the babysitter for all the kids and just got tired with them. They kept pooping all over the place, getting sick, complaining about, are we there yet? So he was like, you know what? There is a simple solution to this problem. I now have a cloak. And no more children. And now he's lonely on the road to nowhere. That's the story. I'm sticking to it. Welcome to Monument Hobbies, children.
Very dark.
Yeah,
very grim.
Very grim, very dark.
Welcome to Monday. It's Monument Hobbies. If you're just now tuning in, welcome. We are painting up some details on these units.
That was a good segue, Chris.
You like that? You see how natural that was? So on that note, welcome. We make the beautiful paint called Pro Acryl. And
we paint flayed children.
And we talk about a mass murdering robot babysitter. Hopefully you all enjoyed that, just as I did.
News at 11.
It's the 5 o'clock news at 10. Papa Chicken almost done with some chocolate chip camo battle mechs. Nice. Normally I'd weather at this point, But with the chocolate chip camo and the small scale, I suspect it might look too busy. Thoughts on whether or I should skip or how to make it work?
Yeah,
That's
so
really
camo at
small.
that scale is tough, right?
Yeah.
You can imagine there really isn't good camo for mechs that are stomping at you at 5 stories tall.
And weathering
is going to add, if you've done the camo at scale,
tough. Yeah.
right, then the weathering is going to look like just more, crazy, frenetic camo. And so I don't think it makes sense. I think you do your weathering with color, meaning that you could do like weathering pigments, the chalk pastels like I've shown in the past that would allow you to bring some of the earth tones up onto their legs. Things like that is considered weathering. We haven't done that on the tank yet. But those are other things that you can do to bring the terrain. It's good storytelling. It doesn't add more visual contrast on the model in any way other than with color. And so it makes sense if the legs have like brown dust on them and then you do your earth tone base with browns, then all of a sudden all of that makes sense. People can follow the story that you're trying to tell, gets the job done.
Yeah.
And it still gives you a dirty mech if that was what your goal was.
Yeah, BattleTech is a tough scale because it's
a tough scale because if you're trying to do too much weathering and such, it can make it look like dudes.
Yeah.
As opposed to tiny people in cockpits of mega walking structures.
It
can just be dude scale.
They're huge, huge mechs in that scale too. Like massive.
Yeah. Yeah, the big ones are like, 5 stories tall. Like 50 feet. And now I'm just constantly looking at this thing and determining like what I want to be metallic looking.
Detailing.
Well, I have to think about coloring here, right? Because, and it's weird to think of it like this, but it's like designing a sports uniform. Like, where would the stripes of color be when I'm looking at a model like this? Like, do I want these side cheek panels to be the color of the armor or black? And then as I'm going up, I have this like ablative armor pieces and stuff here. Like, should that be black or the color of the armor? So I'm trying to get a balance of both. And in this case, I'm thinking that some of this is going to go ahead and be black as we go up the cheeks here.
Here's just a typical question. When you're doing details on a unit like this, right? When do you know when to stop for you personally? Because we do get that question actually quite a bit.
Yeah.
When do you stop? And can you basically explain that a little bit for me?
So if we're talking about color details, it's when it starts to feel clown suity. And this is the perfect style of model to talk about that, because I have like these little, what could be smoke launchers on here, or they could be some sort of grenade launchers, right? And so I could see those having like red tips to them, right? But now I've added red to this color scheme. Is that the point where I'm like, okay, is that enough of a spot color that gives interest to it to where you go, oh, what are those? Oh, that's like a grenade launcher, right? Because part of what I try to think of in terms of painting models of any scale is what's the initial focus I want people to look at, right? On this guy, it would be the head. Typical for models, like I said, that halo of light around the head and shoulders is typically where an artist is trying to draw to the human form. There are some times where it's not. It might be that you've got a model looking at a flaming sword, and so maybe the flaming sword is the focus, and so you really go full bore to make an OSL and a super glow, and the flames look super realistic, and the glow back on the face becomes secondary, right? Because the sword is the focal point. But in most cases, it's the head and shoulders. Even on a mech like this, it's going to be the face and shoulders. I have this like glowy eye bit I can do. And then you go outward from there. So I'm trying to look at, okay, what's the second thing I want the eye to go to, right? And so you look at that heavenly curve idea, right? I start in the kind of left of center, and then I move my eye around the piece in this deal. So a lot of artists will put primary focus in one spot and then start working out from close to further away as they go around in a counterclockwise kind of a look. With models, I don't really think about it that way, but it is in some instances, like find a secondary thing close to your focal point. So if it's the eye, face, 30 millimeter cannon on the torso, what's the second thing? So it could be like the red of these grenade launchers, or there could be like a glow coming out of this point of exhaust on his back or something. And then maybe I do some chipping on there, and all of it has to work together to not detract from your focus point. So if you put so much time in all the chipping, the tank would be a good idea to show again here, right? If we over chip the tank, right, then you miss the fact that the turret with the 42 and this angle right here is probably our money shot. And so the detail is really the turret with the barrel, right? And then everything else comes down from there. Even on a vehicle, it has a head and a shoulder area, right? So we've done that. If we then have the chipping and the streaking so high contrast everywhere, it becomes a disco ball. Your brain is overwhelmed with stuff to look at, and it loses the composition. There's not a single thing to take in and say, that's a rad tank. You're overexposed to too much stuff. And so, okay, there's a tank, but holy hell, what's going on? And so it's really bringing that focal point in and then doing some detailing outside of it. So when you say, when do I quit? I quit when I feel like I've achieved that goal, right? I feel like I quit when the head and shoulder and the focal point feel good and everything else falls into secondary repose, sort of, right? You know, I've got some other details, like on the back, the jetpack is just something that nerds like us are going to look at. Like, hey, that's a jetpack. It should be lit up and have some exhaust and all that, even though from the money shot, you're never going to see it, right? Even from 3-foot test, when I'm playing these models, I'm not going to see it. So that's just one of those details that I'm going to put in there because I know the function of the thing is better painted than not. If it's just cool, it doesn't give me the cool nerd feel that I'm looking for. So I will go overboard on certain things like that. But for the rest of it, you'll notice that there's not a lot of detailing down here at the lower part of the leg. Yeah. Right? There's just not. There's not a lot of edge highlighting. There's not a lot of detail going on because it's irrelevant. If I detail all of that heavy metal style, and I give myself big, bold edge highlights all the way down on the leg, then it pulls the eye to the foot, and the foot's not interesting on this model. That's not what I want people looking at. I want people looking at this. Gotcha. Right? So you'll even notice the backpack isn't that highly detailed, right? It's in the background. It's behind his head because the shoulder, the gleam across the shoulder, the white helmet of the veteran, right? Then we go to the lightning claws and a little bit of the detailing on the gold elsewhere, and then the model's done. You're done looking at it. It looks great. Awesome. Yeah. Don't give them so much to look at. Make it interesting, so if they rotate it around, they go, oh man, that's really rad. But don't give them so much to look at that they get lost in it, because at some point in time, it takes a turn for the worse, and they're like, yeah, that's pretty cool. I think you kind of overdid it.
Yeah, you can go overboard.
Mikey Vengeance, what's going on? All right, where'd my big guy go? Does that answer your question?
Yeah. No, that's great.
I never circle back.
No, it's just I've noticed that in the chat. That question has been asked several times. It's like, like when do you know when to stop, right?
Well, and remember too that a lot of that is preference, right? A lot of that is going to be different on every model you paint. Now, if you're painting armies, it's going to be very similar for all the models in the army until you get to the character. Yeah. You won't stop at the same point for the leader of your force. If you're painting, Nagash, right? Yeah. You're going to spend a lot more time on Nagash, hopefully, than you do on the standard bone dudes in your undead army. Yes. Because now that doesn't preclude you from being able to spend a lot of time on the skeletons. Yeah. Right. But then you've decided that I'm taking this to the finals. Right. This is going to be my life's work. I'm painting this whole army where every skeleton is a golden demon, Slayer sword winning a work, and then Nagash is just blown out. Wow, this is just amazing.
Yeah, you definitely have that centerpiece vibe.
Right. Mm-hmm. But that's what is fun about armies in that case, is your leader, your heroes, your unit commanders, all that kind of stuff. Your big models like this guy, right? Yeah. Are going to be something that is well worth spending the time on, because that's where people's eye goes. Let's talk about composition of an army, right? Mm-hmm. The composition of an army is that your foot troops are just a color. They're just a broad spectrum color on the table, right? Yep. And whereas I don't really want that. I got some blue up on that other part. So you don't want to have that be the focal point for you and wear you out on painting the army necessarily. Oh, that just screwed the pooch on that one, didn't I? Just rubbed blue all over the place. You want to try to keep your foot troops being fairly standardized, giving people a good look at the color of the army, and then focus on your characters, because the characters are the ones they'll pick up. Yep. The leader, the big monster, right? Like if you're painting Tyranids, your Termagants and Hormagaunts, probably aren't where you put all your effort. Yeah. They still need to look the right colors, right? But you put all your effort on. It's like the color to the sleeves of your jersey are important, but not the focal point. It's the graphic on the chest that's the focal point. And the troops are the sleeve, the color on the sleeve and the stripes, and the centerpieces are the logo.
Yeah,
the graphic that has the name that everybody refers to and says, "Oh my gosh, that looks cool. Have you seen so and so's Tyranids? Oh my god."
We call it the pickup rule. When you pick it up, what do you want them to focus on?
True. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes total sense with armies because the ones that people will pick up, they're going to be the Nagashes. They're going to be, that one hero that's on the 50 mil bait, like what you're painting, right? The other models are cool, but they're more uniform.
And like I said before, you have the ability to paint those other models to the point where they'll want to pick those up too. That's just icing on the cake. Mm-hmm. That's if you have the time and the patience to do so. That's why I never finish armies, because every single one of my dudes on the field is a character model in my eyes.
Yeah,
I can't leave well enough alone and just paint stuff like that. That's why what we're doing now with painting a squad is refreshing, because I'm not thinking of any of these as needing to be award-winning paint jobs. I want them to look good, right? I want to feel good about my army, and for me that means they have to look good.
Yeah, I
can't just zenithal and speed paint my armies because that doesn't feel good to me at the end of the day. I'm going to invest. If it's worth painting one, it's worth painting it to the best of my abilities.
No, that's great.
I have to find a way to reel that in so I finish things, right? So the last one that we did that way that I think was very indicative of how I follow that mantra is the Warcry stuff that I painted when I was playing Zambies at Adepticon last year.
Yeah, which looks great on the table.
I love them. I love taking them out. If somebody picks them up, I'm not like, oh yeah, I'm not done with those yet, right? We've all been there.
Yep.
Your friend picks up a model and go, oh yeah, that's a work in progress. But I've been that way. I've been like, oh yeah, don't judge me on that, because that's just really quick, so I don't have gray models on the table. And I don't like that. I don't like that feeling. It's horrible. I want to be done. I want to have cool stuff painted. But there's also a reason why I don't play very many games, because I never finish armies. So I'm also a hypocrite.
Full circle. No, but I mean that's a great way of putting it, because I think people have that question. We're like, well, when am I done? It's like, well, when you
feel
are
like
done, when you feel like it.
You're done when you say you're done.
Nicholas.
Nice thing about art, there's no rules.
78 months. Thank you for that sub.
Is that a Nick Pie?
No, it's Nicholas 314.
That's Nick Pie.
That's Nick Pie.
3.14 is pi, by the way. And he used to send us pie.
Oh,
Nick Pie's a hero. Nick Pie's a hero.
Thank you so much. That's great. Nick Pie.
One day we just got pie showed up at the office. I was like, what?
Was there a bomb in that pie?
There was no bomb. It was not ticking. There was no bomb in the pie. Not that we can recall. It was just good, delicious pie. But I think the pie place closed down.
Which pie place?
He'd have to tell you. Marie Callender's?
Oh, Marie Callender's. Those have closed quite a bit across the valley. I don't actually think there's any Marie Callender's left. We used to... actually? I don't think there are any more Marie Callender.
Nick, where did you get that good pie from? That delicious pie?
No, I don't know. It probably is from Marie Callender's. It used to be.
Anyway, thank you so much, Nick. Hero for the ages. I was just telling somebody, at my lunch, I had a lunch meeting today, and I was telling them, I was like, we have people that have been following along our stream for coming up on 9 years.
Yes, we have.
How silly is that?
We have the best community, hands down.
Putting up with us for 9 years. You realize Jen's only put up with me for 10? You guys are a close second. If Jen ever kicks me out, you got a couch I can stay on?
No.
They said no?
No, I spoke for chat. Nah, We're putting him out in the cold, chat.
Damn it. I thought we was friends. I thought there was love in this room.
Nick Pie, I don't recall the name of the place I used. Who knows? Could be that. Mo, but yeah, you all have to share with the cats.
Ha.
We do. We've got a great community.
100%.
for all of you who are in here. Definitely, if you have questions, be sure to tag us. Never be afraid to ask a question, even if it might not be on the particular subject. We'll flip into another question if you have it. So don't worry about that.
Yeah, always. If you're a new painter, you are just as welcome to ask questions, stuff that's stumping you from what you might think is the most basic. That's the stuff that gets people inspired to get out there and start painting. So
yep.
Feel free. Don't ever hesitate. There's no dumb questions. Well, there are a couple of dumb questions, but...
What? No.
Yeah, there's a couple of them.
What's a dumb question?
Huh?
Give me an example of it. I need 15 dumb questions.
I'm sorry. I'm not the kind of person that asks dumb questions, so I don't know how to finish it.
Oh!
But don't...
Whoa! Whoa, Chad!
But don't... Womp, womp.
All right, you only get a few of those, chat. That's it. That was that. You only get a few. I am a respectful man.
Avian says, considering I'm dumb, do my questions become dumb? No.
Avian.
You've never had a dumb question.
Don't talk
and you
about
are not dumb
that way. Don't talk about Avian that way.
What world are you talking about? Nobody in this chat is dumb. And anybody who's brave enough to put paint on minis, show it to the world, is my hero. Plain and simple. Don't let anybody tell you different. I love the way that people get inspired to go put color on things, especially when they may not even be comfortable with painting and color in general. Even better. One of the hardest things in the world is to realize that none of this is brain surgery. If you mess it up, guess what? You can fix it. As long as you don't throw the model against the wall and shatter it into a million pieces, it is always fixable.
It's a good way of putting it.
You can just take Baby J's method to heart on that one. You've watched that man sit here on stream and prime over some of the most beautiful models I've ever seen because he wasn't happy. Right?
Yeah.
I've been like, I will pay you to not prime that, and he does it anyway.
Cynical's asking, what's the largest mini you've ever painted?
Have
you ever what's the biggest thing?
Bigatures.
Bigature. I guess that's a great way.
Yeah, we call them bigatures.
The old bigature.
The bigatures. How big of a bigature have I painted? I feel like that's enough black.
We have a Cthulhu that is hanging out in the office, or a Galactus.
I think that Cthulhu went to John here locally to paint. One of our local painters. We said we'd commission him.
Yeah.
He was insane and said he'd paint that for like $350. So.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah,
we
don't have it back yet. We don't have it back yet, so I don't know that he actually can. But that was the hat that was thrown in the ring. He came in and says, "I want to paint that thing for you." Nice. He either took that or Galactus. No, Galactus is here, but the Cthulhu he took.
Oh, okay.
I have painted 1/6 scale human figures before. That's been a long time ago. I do not prefer working that scale. I prefer anything in the 1/35th scale and down. So the scale that we typically are working in, that 28 to 30 millimeter scale, is called 1/56th.
Yeah.
1/48th, 1/35th. Those scales work really, really well for me. Then scale becomes a non-issue when you're talking about like Gundam. I really like painting like the Gundam style, or like Knights for 40K and stuff like that. Like we have a Warhound Titan. I painted multiple Warhound Titans. Those are 1/56, but because of the scale of them, they're huge. Big, super heavy tanks for 40K from Forge World are huge. So they are like painting 1/6 scale humans, but because the scale of the detailing is meant to be for 28 mil figures, I prefer that. Where it has a lot of, even though I bitch about it, a lot of little skulls, a lot of little packs and things like that, because there's lots of cool ways to bring out contrast. When you're doing larger scale, like 1/6 or 1/10 scale humanoid, like a big Batman or something like that, the detail grows with it too. And generally those models are less, they're sculpted to be more realistic. So there's less going on with them. So they're just not as fun to paint. You get the color right, that's great. You get the skin right, great. they just don't become as exciting for me. So smaller scale puts more detail into a tighter knit package, which causes me to bitch and complain about it, but gives me a better feeling at the end because of the ability to create contrast. In those smaller packages, a lot more fun.
Hey, we've got a raid.
A raid?
Next Level Painting. Thank you so much for that raid.
Never heard of him. Next Level Painting at
Next Level Painting
at 3:38 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on a Monday.
Thank you so much for that raid.
Kenny, are you feeling okay, my friend?
Welcome in, Raiders. That's me using my little new megaphone powers.
Cynical says, I find my preference for people as a 75. I do love 75 mil and even larger, right? So I'm caught lying. If we're talking about busts, then this is bigger. This is, good God.
Well, technically, yeah, you were talking about
Antonio L. Tigre here is probably, like a 300 millimeter scale, right? But in bust form with 40K detailing on it, it's still a lot of fun for me to paint. So I will backtrack my statement and say that my favorite scale for painting at display quality is probably like that 75 mil. But I call this 75 mil, and it's not. This is like, 250 mil because the bust cut off at the waist or her thigh. So she's actually a lot taller than what is represented here.
Right.
But I love this type of detailing. But in the fantasy and sci-fi world where these sculpts exist for us, it's still more detailing and more figured for being painterly than the big 1/6 scale models that are like painting Venom at 1/6 scale would make me pull my brain out my smallest orifice because it's just not a lot of detail.
Yeah.
It's just a ton of color. And that's what bores me. So yeah, 75 mil, I love that scale. Kenny, what's happening, man? Playing games? What games you playing?
PoE 2?
Don't tell me you're playing PoE. He's a Diablo guy.
I think he plays PoE 2 as well.
Uh-oh, look out.
Yeah.
Flapsack Nickeljack. I've been painting a lot of 54 mil and finding that a lot of fun. Yeah, those scales can be really nice because they give you a little bit bigger format to paint. Like our models for Angra are all in that 75 mil. They tend to be about 90 millimeters tall.
Well, we got those cards in, too.
And these are great. Oh, yeah, that's right. You got the these are about to go live for sale. They will come with the history card, with the model, with the game art on it, along with the playable card in game, where you put them into the circle, and now your model is in the game fighting for his or her life.
Oh, that looks sleek when it's on there.
Yeah, they're amazing. Yeah, so each one comes with a limited... Well, I say limited edition. The only way to get these cards for your Angra game is to buy the model. And instead of having the card art that would have been on here, it gives you the base to put your model on. So we have those for the first 3. Those cards are in stock now, so the gang should be boxing those up, and you should see them on the site maybe this week? Question mark?
I think they're coming soon.
We'll talk to Gabe. You'll be able to buy them. It's amazing.
Oh, here's a question
I'll
let you read. Here we go.
Today, you wanted to paint a miniature without a zenithal highlight or a light source coming from any direction. Just make a stand playable on your board game. But as soon as I started doing some edge highlighting to emphasize details, they seem so off when edge highlighting something facing downwards or something in the groin region. Understand any tips on what I tried to achieve? So the thing to remember is that zenithal can confuse us because it's a step that adds something in to the painting process. When painting, you always want to highlight towards your light source. So when you say you wanted to paint something without a light source, that's impossible, right? You just don't paint it. Or you paint it in the black as black, right? Because if there's no light source, then there's nothing to see. So when doing a light source, typically just saying that it's coming from above and not worrying about it being a directional light source is fine. That's the way 90% of my models are painted. This guy doesn't have any light source in particular that I've nailed down for where the light is coming from. It's just above. Right? So everything highlights towards the top. So if I were going to do edge highlighting on him, everything would just be on the top upper light facing edges. I don't know a reason why not to do that, because your brain will get distracted like you're seeing from having it be wrong. Right? When there's no light on an object, because there's light on every object, your brain and your eyes know that. So if you show it something that's highlighted all the way around, it goes wrong. Or it creates the vision of where the light would be coming from, and it can't be coming from everywhere and not be oversaturated. So I think it's probably better to just kind of look at it from an aspect of simple overhead light and not anything too dramatic. That's really the glory of doing the zenithal style prime, is that if you do a black and then a white zenithal, and then you can very easily put a base coat color down and it's already pre-highlighted, right? That's what speed paints rely on, contrast paints, all of that. Great way to get models done fast. But trying to think in my head of why you would want to paint a model that did not have a source of light on it, well, then it would be in darkness, complete darkness. It would just be black. So,
are we going to be demoing Age of Angra at Adepticon?
Yes, along with a new game.
Yep.
Uh-oh. What?
Yeah. We have a new 2 to 5 player game that is amazing amounts of fun.
It's very
tremendous fun. Zazin says universal lighting. Yeah, just from the top. In today's episode of Adventures with Chuck. You're back at work already? The #1 volume producer of reversible snap ring pliers in the U.S. We somehow lost 128,000 shift pins for said pliers. If you need a pair, get them now because we ain't making any for a while. Oh,
that's rough.
I have some. Maybe not yours, but maybe they are yours. Hobby Nerd Skirmish game win, though. We're changing it to Monument Games, by the way. So we'll be known as Monument Games. We think that branding will help us a lot more with people understanding who and what you're dealing with. And so Monument Games will most likely be looking into some miniature games in the coming time. I always hate saying days, months, years. I don't know. Super Duper John, yeah, we'll be there. You didn't want to have a light sources to be able to paint it faster and having all colors in uniform lighting, so nothing in shadows created by me. All colors in uniform lighting. But if you're trying to do a light source that's able to paint it faster, you'll never be able to paint faster than a zenithal with like a speed paint coat on it or a glaze wash coat on it, right? That already highlights shades and midtones for you all at once. I feel like that's really your best way. And the, you know, if I'm looking at this bottle, it has a light source, right? It goes from bright up top to shadow at the bottom and shadow over on the side away from the light. Everything your brain is going to respond to is going to have that. So I think that even if you wanted to make it fast and you just put base coat colors on it, stick your highlights still to the top edges and that'll solve some of your problem. So instead of highlighting edges on the bottom, right, just always highlight them, you know, upper, even though you didn't want to create a light source. You just kind of need to. That's the basic principle of defining three-dimensional art, is picking a light source. What we are as painters of three-dimensional art, and even of two-dimensional art, right, is we are finding the way to fake light. That's what we do. The only reason to be a painter is to fake light, right? Now, even if you're a cartoonist and all of your stuff has no shadow, right, that's your story, right? You're storytelling with light. So, you know, but even Charles Schultz had shadows on Snoopy, right? That cell-shaded two-color three-dimensional way of painting has a great effect and very simple to achieve. So you can go quick and still maintain the storytelling that light provides, which is what really sells a three-dimensional object. It's why when we look at models that you just base coat with a color, so the shirt's red, the pants are blue, face is flesh, and that's just it. You just paint it with those colors. It never looks right because as you pick it up and rotate it around, light and shadow move, but the model doesn't move. So the brain disconnects from that whole thing and looks like it's not finished because it just knows that that's not the way things are. So we're always trying to lock some form of light and shadow on. That's why the zenithal thing is the quickest way to do it. Like if you're really trying to paint fast, spray can prime black, spray can prime white with a zenithal over the top, and slap a color on there or two, and you're done. I mean, that extra step is worth 1,000,000 hours of quality gold at the end of the day. 100%. Doghouse Hobbies, you'll be at Adepticon on that Friday. PTO just approved. Nice. Yeah, I'll be there Thursday, Friday, Saturday. When you first learned about Procryl, you thought they were made by a Hobby Lobby style company? Like a big box company? Why? Because they're so good? We're just a little mom and pop shop in Phoenix, Arizona. I think.
How you feeling about this right now?
I mean, I got all the black done now on the big guy. I feel like we've spent 2 streams and we knew nothing but painting blue-black, which is true. That is exactly what we've done. But I'm pretty good with all of the coloring on him now.
You kind of wrapped up that stage of the detailing?
Well, I think now that I'm looking at it, I think if I do want to do these grenade launchers, that they probably ought to be black as a base.
Where are they?
These things.
Oh. I didn't realize that was a weapon.
They have panel separation from the rest of the colors, so I feel like them having a backdrop of black, if I were going to paint the grenades like red cases or yellow cases or something.
Well, that's cool.
You know, that these should probably have a black backdrop for that because the red up against the tan directly doesn't have the impact that the red up against a black would. I feel like that's better. We're going to do that real quick. Finish our time together today with painting more of the same color I've been painting for 2 days. Did Kenny tell us what game he was playing?
No, I didn't see it. Nope. Maybe he hopped back into playing. Yes, this is... Oh, Mo said Diablo.
Gotcha. I knew he was a Diablo player.
This is a duster from Blackout. Yes.
A heavy duster. They also make a lighter, medium duster.
Chaotic Painting. Any new paints on the horizon?
Yes. 24 new colors. Adepticon 2025.
Be there.
However many days away that is. Not enough.
That is tomorrow.
Not enough.
It feels like
it's way too soon, let me tell you that much.
You have Gamma first, right?
Yeah. Gamma's in 2 weeks. So we got to do Gamma. I'll be at Gamma for 1 day. I'll be there Thursday. Phil and Kyle will be there for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I guess they're not there flying home on Friday. But the team will be there for the entirety of Gamma. I will just be flying in for the day of the show on Thursday, mostly.
Oh, here's a big question. From Morius Omega, if I wanted to simulate an Eldar spirit seer who's been walking for weeks on frozen sea, how would I simulate the bits of loose ice and snow that have been gathered on the edges of the robe? Also, if I wanted the Wraith Guard and Knight to look similarly worn, should I use some green stuff, World Liquid Frost, and paint it all over the model, except maybe in the joints, or how should I make it look realistic? Here's the question.
Believe it or not, I really like for that kind of stuff, because if it's building up on cloth, then it's going to be kind of like chunky. So I like basing material for that, like our superfine snow basing material. Not that you would the snow because it's the finest grit that we have, but you could do the snow and stipple it on. You could thin it down and stipple it on to where it builds up how you want to. So it's very controllable like a paint. So just painting a texture paint on there. That way you could keep it to the hem of whatever's dragging on the ground, the feet, right? Maybe a little bit on the head and shoulders if it were also snowing and gathering on top areas. That's up to you. But that would be the way that I would do it. That's the way I would do mud too. The same thing. I would use the snow to do mud if you wanted to add a texture. Sometimes paint alone doesn't do it because you need to be able to give somebody the three-dimensional aspect of it. And painting a three-dimensional texture like that doesn't always work because it looks like it's embroidery as opposed to actual physical stuff, because you're working on a physical 3D model. If you're painting it on canvas, you just paint it flat and it would work. On a three-dimensional surface where everything else is actual 3D on the sculpt, you need to have that kind of a detail and be three-dimensional as well. And so I like texture paint for that. Our snow basing texture is perfect. I use it for that all the time. Dirt, mud on tracks of tanks and stuff like that. It's great. So I'm trying to figure out the sort of undercolors to use for Pale Witch Elf Flesh. I'm looking at the Warcry Ogre's Warband and would use a more light, less vibrant yellow highlight over the... Well, so that was these guys, right?
Yeah, I was just about to say, yeah, check this one out.
Right. So this is the same like purples, reds, and yellow greens. I think I used dark magenta, purple, dark magenta, and bright yellow green on him too. And then, doing that live in a cave kind of pale flesh is all done with olive flesh and some red gray. The red gray was the first layer to go down, and then like the olive skin tone over the top of that. And then you get like a really nice pale flesh, but you still have those same kind of coloration. I chose to use dark magenta on him because this was around the time when Louise's set was coming out and all of those. So
that's a great.
We were doing a lot of painting with the Signature Series stuff, but that was the whole deal, and like this whole set. But it still gives you the kind of blood and the pinch of the shoulder blades there, as well as the purple shadows. Really helps it feel like bruisey, type skin that's more see through because it's not exposed to light as much. So I really like that. So the same colors. Remember, those colors are more about what's underneath the skin than the color of the skin, right? Yeah, that's bright yellow green on this one. Yeah, definitely. Bright yellow green is a great color to do it with.
Yeah, if you go back and watch our video on the glazing faces and skin, gives you the whole workup.
Yeah, pop in real close on this guy because you can see like the yellowish.
Ooh.
Right. That gives it kind of a jaundiced feel in some areas. On the top of the shoulder there.
That's a great workup.
So that's the bright yellow green, I think, works great for that. Right? Because it gives it kind of a sickly, hasn't been out in the sun kind of feel. Right? Yeah. Not enough vitamin D makes your liver unhappy. So there you go. Got some yellowishness in the skin from an unhappy liver. These guys need to see a doctor. I think those colors work really well. This was dark purple, not royal purple. Dark purple, dark magenta, bright yellow green. And we just slopped it on there super quick on these guys. Right? Because I was having to paint a warband quick to get to Adepticon to play with Zambies, but it works really great. Nothing like a good jaundiced feel, yeah. I think the jaundiced is like one of the yellows. Greenish yellows are one of the coolest ways to give sickly feel on a model because your brain immediately goes to that.
You're sick.
There's not a good time to be yellow, right? It means something is wrong. You need to see a doctor. And so it just gets that feel across, right? Purples, greenish yellows. That's why I like using those. They're the color of bruises, right? And the color of a bruise is just that contusion and those blood vessels popped and all the color that's actually inside you rising to the top, you know? And so those are the colors that I paint underneath the flesh and hide them and let them show through in various levels depending on how sickly I want the flesh to look. You know, we hide it a lot like we did with Antonio El Tigre. You know, we just use the reds and the purples as a way to get the feeling of life baked in there. And the bright yellow green winds up being just a little bit of a yellowish warm tone on the forehead away from our highlight source, right? But it works very well to give us a good flesh tone very quickly. And but you can then do that same workup underneath on this guy and make him look a lot worse for wear because you just let more of those colors show through, the yellows. You know, even the dark magenta, right? Gives it kind of an unhealthy look if there's too much pinkishness in your skin. Yeah. Like it's irritated. It's not easy being green, but there's never a good time to be greenish yellow. Yes, correct.
Never a good time.
Correct. Anything else we missed?
No, I think
sounds good.
Yep. I think I got all of it.
Well, good. Tomorrow, I swear, we'll paint a different color. Tomorrow, we will move into whatever browns I decide to use on all of the boots and packs. We've got a lot of backpack pouches, things like that. That's the next color. Holsters, things like that. So I'm probably going to go back in with the drab brown on its own. As a darker source, we might even go a little bit darker than this. Maybe the dark golden brown.
Okay.
Would be a good contrast. We'll play around with it. I have a lot of colors that we can use that. The dark orange brown might be really good.
Yeah.
And then we got to pick what we're doing for like the visors because they all have like face visors and stuff on them, right? There's no skin showing, but they've all got goggles. And so I'm thinking that, you know, we need to pick like maybe it's a greenish or an orange would be kind of cool. You know, like reflective. It's like doing the cockpits on mechs.
Yeah.
We got to figure out that little blast of color that makes sense and spend some time on that. It's like Space Marine lenses. It's a little bit bigger in size, believe it or not. So it gives us a little bit of room to work. But yeah. When can we expect to see those no paints available after Adepticon? Chaotic, if all goes well, we'll have them available the same time they drop at Adepticon or within a week is our goal. Worst case scenario would be 2 weeks as we catch up with production, depending on how much sells and the demand at Adepticon. It all becomes a production thing at that point in time. How much can we produce before the show and how much we're able to load up into inventory at the time of the show, right? So if everything we can produce up until then is what the sales group says that we'll need for the show, then, and for retail, because we do the pre-orders for retailers ahead of schedule too, then we will do that. And then they'll start producing while we're at Adepticon to release a little bit later. 24 new colors, and some of them, I mean, they're all amazing. 4 new washes.
Yeah.
In those 24 colors.
The washes I'm very excited for those washes.
Yeah, we have a sepia wash, which is basically our petroleum brown wash. We have a brown gray wash. We have a Payne's gray wash and a dark magenta wash. So some fantastic wash colors coming at you that I think you'll love. What else? Then there's 20 other colors that are amazing.
Yeah.
Some cool
Stay
grays.
tuned.
We've got dark cool gray and cool gray coming at you, which is really great.
Gray green?
Gray greens.
Gray green?
Yep, some really, really cool desaturated colors that a lot of people have been asking about. So good stuff. And some really bright tints as well, like a bright seafoam green kind of color. I think it's called bright pale. It's not bright pale green. We already have that. I forget what it's called. You literally just got Nova Orange to complete the set. We got to keep you on your toes.
Got to keep you on your toes.
Got to keep you on your toes. Plus, we've got 16 freaking heavy body paints coming.
We have a lot coming
Watch out, world.
This year.
Watch out, world.
Lots coming.
Cool gray. Yep. Good thing you haven't started your Wolves Legion yet. Yeah. I mean, I can show here at the end of the show. I can show most of them, if not all of them. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool gray. We've also got a nice faded kind of a blue green, light bluish green. The brown gray wash. We've got a really nice peach flesh. We've got crimson, not dark crimson, but crimson in a matte version. So I think people will love that. We've got black red. I don't remember what all these colors are called. Right. Cool beiges. That's the cool gray. How about steel? An in-between silver. So it goes between silver and dark silver. Got a nice putty green gray going on. We've got a good navy blue. The dark cool gray. Neat terracotta. Another neat. So you can see we've got a bunch of really cool desaturated ones. Another orange in there, which is red orange. We have orange red, but now we have red orange. The magenta wash. Right.
The magenta wash will be really cool for some like skin.
The other ones I think we've shown
recesses.
on here. We showed the emerald and jade blacks. That's the Payne's gray wash. Where did the other one go?
Super duper. We pride ourselves on our names making sense.
Somewhere up here is the emerald black as well.
No slap gray or whatever, or
wizard's butt.
No wizard's butt except for wizard's butt. But yes, we have very good names. Makes sense. Just makes sense.
You're gonna dig these. We've been using them a lot, pissing people off on stream by using colors you can't have. That's what we do. Another one. Oh, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. 24 choices.
Falgias.
Says the guy named after a holiday in raw fish, Christmas sushi. I mean, talk to his parents. That's not his fault. He's lived his life to dedicating color names to be what they're supposed to be because of his parents.
That's right.
Are they going to be in expansion packs? Yeah, two 12-color sets. Available at Adepticon for the first time only. And very soon after, or as close to that as we can make it. Hopefully we have, the plan is always here to allow retailers to pre-order the month leading up to the release, which would be the month leading up to Adepticon. So starting hopefully March 1st here at the end of the month, we'll be allowing them to order. And then hopefully we get enough made to where they get orders sent out the same week that we're going to Adepticon. So you might find them at your local retailer quicker than you find them on our store. That could be a choice. So we'll see. Caddock Painting says it's only one choice. All of them. When are you going to get troll turquoise? Troll taint cois? Still going to do something with Trench Crusade Zazen? Well, how do you mean? Yeah, we're looking to do some more stuff on them, for sure. Gonna need to upgrade the go bag to a rolling duffel. I know, right? We need like what it'll be next is it will be one of those pull behind trailers, those little igloo pull behind trailers that you can like get to where you're going and has like a pop out and a pop up. So it's like your whole studio. You can just leave it out in your driveway and plug it in to the house, and that's where you paint. And yeah, it's a Go Van. There you go. Nick Pye says the Go Van. We won't be doing a color set. They're not interested in having their own paint. I mean, they may do it with somebody, but we're not really interested in that. The Go Back golf cart. Oh, even better. Gang, thank you so much for hanging out with us. It is unfortunately 4:00 and time for us to go. So follow all the links that Christmas Sushi put up there in the chat. If you're new around here, hit that follow button or the subscribe button if you're over on the YouTubes. Remember, these streams all go direct to the live tab on YouTube for easy navigating and watching post-mortem. Check out the Discord link, 5,398. So close to 5,400 amazing artists. Layering in a nuts hell in the Discord. Artists layering in a nuts hell. Instead of a nutshell. Layering in a nuts hell. Okay. I get it. Sort of. Jump into Discord. We got a tremendous group of artists just like you guys that is a tremendous inspiration. Great stuff being posted all the time in the completed works, the work in progress stuff. You get to join the Discord challenges, get a direct line to all the monument staff, say hello, hang out, tell fart jokes, show us what you're cooking. Lots of fun. Can you clip that edge highlighting segment from last week as a YouTube video?
Yellow Square, I am so ahead
Which
of you.
edge highlighting segment?
The one with
with the axe.
Yeah.
I think he said he's already got the photo and stuff. So yeah, probably. That was this thing, right?
Yep. It's coming, Yellow Square.
That was this thing that just talked about how to angle your brush to get a nice consistent line across an edge and how to use the tip of the brush when you can't use the side. So more of a technical aspect than a real focus on painting. But I think it turned out pretty nice for quick. That was done in like a couple minutes.
Quick and simple.
Yep. Cool. Well, thank you so much. Stick around. Chris is going to find somebody to raid. Show some love in the channel you wind up in. Hit the follow button over there, too. It's free, and it helps out. Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you back here, because remember, we stream 5 days a week. I always forget that part. 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We'll see you back here tomorrow, gang. I'm out.